Before we begin, please remember that this presentation is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute legal, financial, or professional career advice. The path to becoming a lawyer is highly individual, and regulations, admissions standards, and the legal market are subject to change. For personalized guidance, you should always consult with academic advisors, admissions professionals, and official sources such as the American Bar Association and your specific state bar associations. Picture this for a second. You're sitting at your desk, maybe it's late at night in your college dorm, or maybe you're grabbing 10 minutes on your lunch break at a job that's draining the life out of you. You open a browser tab and you start typing, "How to become a lawyer." And what you see is a tidal wave of terrifying numbers. $180,000 in student debt, a 7-year-long marathon, acceptance rates at top schools that look like a typo, and looming over it all is the shadow of a single 4-letter monster, the LSAT. Suddenly, that dream of walking into a courtroom, of negotiating a major deal, of fighting for a cause you believe in, it starts to feel less like a dream and more like a fantasy. Feels impossible, like a mountain you can't climb. If you've ever felt that, even for a second, then this is the most important video you will watch this year. Because I'm here to tell you that becoming a lawyer is not about being a genius, it's not about coming from a wealthy family, and it's not about having some kind of secret connection. It's about having a map, a clear step-by-step roadmap that turns that impossible mountain into a series of manageable hills. And today I'm giving you that map. This isn't just another list of go to college, get good grades. This is the 2026 roadmap. It's designed for the world we live in now. A world with a reshaped LSAT, with artificial intelligence changing the legal profession, and with new financial realities you have to face. Whether you're a high school student trying to choose your first set of classes, a college sophomore wondering if you picked the right major, or a professional in your late 20s or 30s thinking about making a massive career change, this roadmap is for you. We are going to demystify this entire process, from the thoughts you're having right now all the way to your first day as a practicing attorney. We're going to break this journey down into 4 distinct phases. Phase 1. The foundation. This is everything you do in high school and college to build an undeniable profile. Phase 2. The gauntlet. Conquering the LSAT and crafting an application that makes admissions officers stop and say, "Wow." Phase 3. The crucible. Not just surviving law school, but thriving in it and building the skills that actually matter. And finally, Phase 4. The final gate. Passing the bar exam and landing the job that makes this entire journey worthwhile. But before we take a single step on that map, before we talk about a single class, a single internship, or a single test, we have to start at the true beginning. The place where more than half of all aspiring lawyers fail before they even start. We have to start with your mindset. Because the biggest lie you've been told is that law school is purely an intellectual challenge. It's not. It's a psychological one first. And if you don't build the right mental framework, the best grades and test scores in the world won't save you. So right now, we're going to shatter the 3 most dangerous myths that derail potential lawyers every single day. Myth number 1. I'm not smart enough to be a lawyer. Let's be perfectly clear. Law school isn't a gathering of super geniuses. It's a gathering of elite-level workers. Think of it like this. Being a lawyer isn't about being the world's fastest sprinter. It's about being a world-class marathon runner. The person who wins isn't the one who is fastest out of the gate. It's the one with the discipline to put in the miles, day after day, week after week, when no one is watching. It's about resilience. It's about your ability to read a dense 50-page document on a Tuesday night when you're tired and you'd rather be doing anything else. It's about your ability to get a B- on a midterm, which will happen, and not let it shatter your confidence, but instead use it as fuel to figure out what you did wrong and master the material for the final. The question you should be asking isn't, "Am I a genius?" It's, "Am I willing to do the work?" If the answer is yes, you have what it takes. Myth number 2. You need connections or a family of lawyers to succeed. This is an old, outdated idea from a bygone era. Today, the legal world is more open to first-generation talent than ever before. Law schools and law firms are actively seeking diverse candidates from all walks of life because they bring perspectives that are incredibly valuable. Your unique background isn't a liability. It's your superpower. You don't have a network? Great. We're going to show you how to build one from absolute scratch, using tools and strategies that didn't even exist 10 years ago. Being the first in your family to go to law school doesn't put you at a disadvantage. It makes you a pioneer. And pioneers are exactly the kind of people who change the world. And the third, most insidious myth. Being a lawyer means living inside a courtroom drama like Law and Order or Suit. This single misconception stops so many brilliant people from pursuing law because they can't picture themselves giving a dramatic closing argument. The reality is, that kind of litigation is a tiny, tiny slice of the legal profession. Do you love technology and innovation? You could be an intellectual property lawyer helping startups patent the next world-changing invention. Are you passionate about the environment? You could work in environmental law, shaping the policies that protect our planet. Do you love business and strategy? You could be a corporate lawyer at the center of billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions. You can work in sports, in entertainment, in immigration, in real estate, in international policy for a nonprofit, for the government, or for yourself. The law is not a single job. It is a master key that can unlock 100 different careers. Your job isn't to fit into a pre-made box of what a lawyer looks like. It's to find the corner of this vast universe that sets your soul on fire. So, how do we replace these myths? We install 3 core mindsets starting today. First is the mindset of a problem solver. At its core, that is all a lawyer is. A client comes to you with a complex, messy, often emotional problem, and they pay you to find a solution. You need to start training your brain to think this way right now. When you read the news, don't just consume it. Ask, what's the underlying conflict here? What are the rules governing this situation? What would a fair outcome look like? In your college classes, don't just memorize facts for the test. Ask why. Why is this rule the way it is? What problem was it designed to solve? Start looking at the world not as a series of facts, but as a series of puzzles waiting to be solved. This is the fundamental skill of legal analysis, and you can start building it long before you ever set foot in a law school. Second is the mindset of a long-term strategist. This is a 7-year-plus journey. You cannot cram for a legal career. Burnout is the #1 enemy of law students and young lawyers. You have to treat this like a professional athlete preparing for the Olympics. It's a multi-year plan that involves cycles of intense work and deliberate rest. It means understanding that what you do your freshman year of college matters. The relationships you build matter. The habits you form matter. You are not just trying to get into law school. You are building the person who will succeed in law school and beyond. This requires patience, foresight, and the maturity to make small, smart decisions every single day that will compound over time into massive success. Finally, and this is the one most people ignore until it's too late, the mindset of financial realism. Let's not sugarcoat it. Law school is obscenely expensive. A 6-figure debt is not a joke. But fear is not a plan. The correct mindset is to view it as a CEO would view a major investment. You must understand the numbers. You need to learn what a scholarship negotiation looks like. You need to know about loan repayment options like public service loan forgiveness. You need to start making smart financial choices now, in college, to minimize your undergraduate debt so you have more flexibility later. Approaching the cost with a clear-eyed strategic plan transforms it from a terrifying monster under the bed into a manageable business decision. It's an investment in your single greatest asset, you. So let's recap. It's not about being a genius, it's about being a worker. It's not about where you come from, it's about where you're going. And it's not about one single job, it's about a universe of possibilities. Your foundation is built on being a problem solver, a long-term strategist, and a financial realist. Before you even think about your GPA, before you open a single LSAT prep book, this is the internal work you have to do. This is the foundation upon which your entire legal career will be built. Get this right and everything else becomes 10 times easier. Now that we've fortified your mind and built that unshakable foundation, we're ready to lay the first practical cornerstone of your journey. We're going to tackle the biggest questions of Phase 1. The foundation. How do you choose the right college? And more importantly, what is the absolute best major to have if you want to go to law school? I promise you the answer is not what you've been told. Let's start with the biggest myth in the entire law school application process, the one your high school guidance counselor probably told you, the one your parents probably believe, the one that funnels thousands of bright, ambitious students into a meat grinder of mediocrity every single year. The myth is that you should major in pre-law, or political science, or criminal justice. Let me be crystal clear. Pre-law is not a major. It's a marketing gimmick some colleges use to attract students. And while political science and criminal justice are fascinating fields, choosing them simply because you want to go to law school is one of the most strategically flawed decisions you can make. It's like wanting to be a world-class chef and deciding the only thing you'll ever eat is bread and water. You're intentionally limiting your palette, your skills, and your story. To understand why, I want you to put yourself in a different chair. You're not the applicant anymore. For the next 60 seconds, you are a law school admissions officer at a top 20 school. It's a dreary Tuesday in February. You're on your third cup of coffee, and you have a stack of 500 applications on your desk you need to get through by Friday. You open the first file. Political science major. GPA 3.7. Wrote a paper on the Supreme Court. Okay, next file. Political science major. GPA 3.6. Interned for a local congressman. Fine. Next. Criminal justice major. GPA 3.8. Wants to be a prosecutor. You see where this is going? File after file after file of the same person, just with a slightly different haircut. They are all smart. They are all qualified. And they are all completely, utterly forgettable. They blend into a gray paste of sameness. Then you open the next file. The applicant is a mechanical engineering major. GPA 3.9. In their personal statement, they write about how designing a more efficient engine taught them about the complex interplay of rules, systems, and consequences, the very essence of statutory law. They built something. They solved a tangible problem. Suddenly you wake up. You lean forward. This person is different. They don't just say they can think analytically. They have a degree that proves it, in a field that requires brutal, unforgiving logic. This is the secret. The best major for law school is not the one that sounds the most like law. It's the one that does two things simultaneously. First, it hardwires your brain for rigorous analytical thinking, and second, it makes you uniquely interesting. Let's break down that first part. Hardwiring your brain. Law school is not about memorizing laws. It's about learning a new way to think. It's about deconstructing an argument, identifying its flaws, and rebuilding it into something stronger. It's about reading incredibly dense, complex texts and extracting the one sentence that matters. What majors train you to do that? Philosophy. A philosophy major spends 4 years studying logic, wrestling with complex ethical dilemmas, and dissecting the arguments of the greatest minds in history. They are professional thinkers. What about economics? It's the study of how systems work, how incentives drive behavior, and how to interpret data to make a logical case. It's a perfect training ground. And what about the STEM fields? Math, physics, computer science. Law schools are desperate for these applicants. Why? Because if you can write 1,000 lines of functional code, you have demonstrated an almost superhuman capacity for logical, sequential reasoning. You understand that if one tiny piece of syntax is wrong, the entire system collapses. That is the exact same discipline required to interpret a contract or a piece of legislation. These hard majors are a powerful signal to admissions committees. They scream, "I am not afraid of difficult, technical work. I can handle the rigor." Now for the second and equally important part, being uniquely interesting. This is where you get to follow your passion. Do you love art history? A law school admissions officer would be fascinated by a thesis on the legal battles over stolen Nazi art. Are you a music composition major? Imagine writing your personal statement about the intellectual property of a melody and how copyright law both protects and stifles creativity. Are you a biology major? You are perfectly positioned to be a future patent lawyer, a biotech compliance expert, or to litigate complex environmental cases. Your major is the first chapter of your story. The political science major story is, "I have wanted to be a lawyer for a long time." The mechanical engineer story is, "I am a problem solver who understands complex systems, and now I want to apply that skill to the legal world." Which story is more compelling? Which person would you rather have on your team? This strategy also has a massive practical benefit: your GPA. The single most important number in this entire phase is your undergraduate grade point average. It is a brutal, non-negotiable factor. And what's the easiest way to get a high GPA? By studying something you are genuinely passionate and excited about. If you force yourself to be a political science major because you think you should, but you secretly hate it, your grades will suffer. You'll get B's. But if you are obsessed with Russian literature, you'll do all the reading, you'll live in the professor's office hours, and you'll have a much better shot at getting that 3.9 or 4.0. A 3.9 in Russian literature is infinitely more valuable than a 3.5 in political science. Don't choose a major to impress a law school. Choose a major that allows you to be impressive. This same logic applies to choosing your college. Everyone is obsessed with getting into the most prestigious, highest-ranked undergraduate institution possible. The Ivy League, Stanford, Duke. And yes, those are phenomenal schools. But for the vast majority of applicants, this is a trap. It's the sea of sameness problem all over again. It is far better to be a superstar at a great state university than it is to be an average, anonymous student at a world-famous one. Think about it. At that big state school, you can be the president of the debate team. You can be the research assistant for the head of the department. You can build deep, meaningful relationships with your professors, the very people who will write your letters of recommendation. You will stand out. At a hyper-elite school, you'll be competing against 1,000 other future law school applicants for those same limited spots. You risk being just another face in the crowd, just another 3.6 GPA fighting for air. Law schools want leaders. They want people who have excelled. So choose a school where you can realistically excel, a place where you can be a big fish in a slightly smaller, but still very impressive pond. So the roadmap for Phase 1 is this: forget pre-law. Pick a major that forges your mind into a logical weapon, whether it's philosophy, economics, or engineering. And pick a major that tells a unique story, one that springs from your genuine passions. Then take that plan to a college where you won't just survive, but where you can dominate, where you can build a record of excellence that is impossible to ignore. This is your foundation. A high GPA and a rigorous, interesting major from a school where you were a star. This is the base of your pyramid, but it's just the base. A perfect academic record is necessary, but it is not sufficient. You can have a 4.0 in physics, but if that's all you have, you're still a flat, two-dimensional character on a piece of paper. You need to add the third dimension. You need to prove you can exist and thrive outside of the classroom. You need a narrative. And that's what we'll build in the next part. We're going to move beyond the transcript and craft the story of who you are. We're going to talk about the strategic use of your summers, the extracurriculars that actually matter, and how to begin building the relationships that will unlock the glowing letters of recommendation that can turn a maybe into a yes. We're going to forge the next piece of your armor, a 4-year narrative that makes you not just an applicant, but an undeniable future asset to their institution. Your undergraduate degree is not a prerequisite, it is your origin story. And the first, most dangerous myth we need to shatter is the myth of the pre-law major. Let me be crystal clear. Law schools do not care if you major in something called pre-law. In fact, many of the most competitive schools look down on it. Why? Because it can be perceived as a shortcut, a major without its own rigorous academic discipline. It's like telling a master chef you want to learn to cook by only reading cookbooks instead of actually mastering the art of French, Italian, or Japanese cuisine. Admissions committees aren't looking for someone who checked the pre-law box. They are hunting for future intellectual titans. They want historians who can dissect precedent, engineers who can deconstruct complex systems, philosophers who can build ironclad logical arguments, and biochemists who can master the intricate details of patent law. Your major is your training ground. It's where you prove you can excel at the highest level of academic difficulty in a field you are passionate about. So what should you major in? The answer is simple and liberating. Major in something that genuinely fascinates you, and something you can get a near-perfect GPA in. That second part is non-negotiable. Your grade point average is the bedrock of your entire application. It is the objective, undeniable proof of your work ethic, your discipline, and your intellectual horsepower over a sustained 4-year period. A fascinating, unique major with a 3.2 GPA is infinitely weaker than a traditional major with a 3.9. Think of your GPA as the power grid for your entire campaign. If it's weak, nothing else. Not your LSAT score, not your extracurriculars, not your personal statement will fully light up. A high GPA doesn't just open doors. It proves you know how to walk through them with excellence. It tells the admissions committee, for 4 years, through 100 different assignments, a dozen professors, and countless late nights, I consistently delivered. I am a safe bet. I am a performer. There is no substitute for this. So pick a major where you can thrive. If that's political science or history, fantastic. But if it's dance or computer science or astrophysics, even better. The more unique your field of mastery, the more you stand out from the tens of thousands of other applicants. But your major and GPA are just the foundation. The real artistry comes in building your 4-year narrative. Let's imagine 2 applicants, both with a 3.8 GPA. Our first applicant, let's call him Alex, majors in political science. He joins the Pre-Law Society, participates in mock trial, and volunteers for a local political campaign. He's done everything right. He's followed the standard playbook. His application is solid, but it's predictable. He is one of 1,000 identical applicants. Now let's look at our second applicant, Ben. Ben decides to major in environmental science. He's passionate about climate change and conservation. In his sophomore year, he takes a class on environmental policy and gets fascinated by the legal battles between corporations and conservation groups. He adds a minor in economics to understand the financial incentives driving these conflicts. For his extracurriculars, he doesn't just join the campus environmental club. He eventually leads it, organizing a successful campaign to eliminate single-use plastics from campus dining halls. He spends a summer interning not for a congressman, but for a small nonprofit that sues polluting companies. He even co-authors a short research paper with his favorite professor on the economic impact of a local wetlands preservation ordinance. When the admissions officer reads Alex's application, they see a competent future law student. When they read Ben's, they see a future environmental lawyer. They see a story. They see a passion that has been cultivated and proven through deliberate action over 4 years. Every piece of his application, his major, his minor, his leadership, his internship, sings the same song. It's a cohesive, compelling narrative that screams, I don't just want to be a lawyer. I know exactly what kind of lawyer I want to be. And I've already started the work. Who do you think gets the spot at the top-tier school? This is the game you need to play. It's not about checking boxes. It's about weaving a thread. Your major is the main color of that thread. Your minors or a double major can add texture and depth. But your extracurricular activities are where you weave the pattern. And here we come to the second great myth of the undergraduate journey, the myth of being well-rounded. Forget being well-rounded. Law schools don't want a jack-of-all-trades who dabbled in a dozen clubs. They want a spiky applicant, someone with a sharp, defined point of excellence. They want depth, not breadth. Being the treasurer of the pre-law society, a member of the debate club, a volunteer at the soup kitchen, and playing intramural soccer looks like a checklist. It shows you're busy, but it doesn't show you're passionate. Instead, find 1 or 2 things and go deep. Rise to a leadership position. Don't just be a member. Be the president, the project lead, the person who made something happen. Don't just volunteer. Track your hours, document your impact, and earn a position of trust and responsibility. Quality trumps quantity every single time. One significant, multi-year commitment that culminates in a leadership role and a tangible achievement is worth more than 10 superficial memberships. Why? Because it demonstrates the traits of a great lawyer: commitment, follow-through, the ability to work with others, and the drive to make an impact. Admissions officers are tired of reading applications from student government senators who passed meaningless resolutions. They are electrified by the story of the student who founded the university's first financial literacy club to help their peers manage debt, and grew it from 5 members to 500. One is resume padding, the other is a narrative of impact. So, over the next 4 years, your mission is twofold. First, protect your GPA like it's the most valuable asset you own, because it is. It requires relentless discipline and strategic course selection. Second, build your narrative. Choose a field of study that ignites your curiosity. Then, align your outside-the-classroom pursuits with that passion. If you're a computer science major interested in intellectual property, don't just join the coding club. Try to get an internship with your university's technology transfer office. Start a blog explaining complex software patents in simple terms. If you're a public health major, volunteer at a legal aid clinic that helps people navigate the healthcare bureaucracy. This cohesion, this alignment of academics, activities, and ambition is what transforms you from a collection of statistics into a living, breathing story. A story they want to be a part of. You're showing them the first few chapters of a brilliant legal career and making them desperate to read the rest. You have the grades. You have the story. You have forged an identity that is both impressive and unique. But now, all of that hard work must face its single greatest trial. You have to prove that your mind is not just disciplined, but sharp enough for the rigors of legal reasoning. You have to face the beast, the great filter, a test designed to measure your potential in one afternoon, and whose 3-digit score can amplify or nullify everything you've spent the last 4 years building. It's time to prepare for the law school admission test, the LSAT. So what is this test? What is this 3-letter monster that keeps a generation of aspiring attorneys awake at night, staring at the ceiling? The LSAT is not a test of what you know. Let me repeat that because it's the most important thing you'll hear about it. The LSAT does not care if you can name all the Supreme Court justices or recite the amendments to the Constitution. It is not a knowledge test. It is a skills test. A pure, unadulterated, brutally difficult test of your ability to think. It's broken down into 3 scored sections, and each one is designed to probe a different facet of the analytical mind. First, you have logical reasoning. This is the core of the LSAT, making up half of your score. You'll be presented with a short paragraph, a little argument, and then asked a very specific question about it. Find the flaw. Strengthen the conclusion. Identify the assumption. It's like being a detective at 100 different crime scenes. Each paragraph is a self-contained universe of logic. The test makers are masters of disguise. They'll take a simple logical error, something like, "The street is wet, therefore it must have rained," and wrap it in dense language about 18th century economic policy or the migratory patterns of monarch butterflies. Your job isn't to know about economics or butterflies. Your job is to see the skeleton of the argument beneath the flesh. To see that they forgot about sprinklers or a fire hydrant or someone washing their car. You have to learn to think not like a student, but like a surgeon, dissecting arguments with precision and speed. Then there's reading comprehension. And if you're thinking, "Great, I've been reading my whole life," you're in for a shock. LSAT reading comp is a different beast. They find the densest, most complex, most mind-numbingly boring passages they can, often from academic journals, and they put them in front of you. One might be about the nuances of quantum mechanics, the next about the role of women in Tang Dynasty poetry. Again, the goal isn't to test your knowledge of these subjects. It's to test if you can absorb a massive amount of unfamiliar information under extreme time pressure, understand the author's main point, their tone, the structure of their argument, and how different pieces of information relate to each other. It's a simulation of what it's like to read a complex judicial opinion or a dense statute for the first time, and be expected to understand it immediately. And finally, we come to the most feared, the most legendary, the most panic-inducing section of all analytical reasoning, better known as logic games. If you've ever heard a pre-law student muttering about how 7 delegates have to be seated at 3 different tables according to a bizarre set of rules, you've encountered a logic game survivor. This section is pure distilled logic. It's like Sudoku, but instead of numbers, you're dealing with variables and conditional rules. If Jessica is on the green team, then Kevin must be on the blue team. Either Frank or George, but not both, must inspect the factory on Wednesday. Your task is to take this jumble of rules and create a world, a diagram, where you can see all the possibilities and make deductions. It's the section that feels the most alien at first, the one where most people bomb their first practice test. But here's the secret. It is by far the most learnable section of the entire test. It's a system, a code. And once you crack it, once you learn how to build the diagrams, it can go from your worst section to your best. These 3 sections are then mashed together, your performance is calculated, and you are given a score on a scale from 120 to 180. That's it. That's the entire range. A 151 is roughly the 50th percentile, the average score. But in the world of law school admissions, average doesn't cut it. To get into a top 50 law school, you're generally looking for a score in the 160s. And if you're dreaming of Harvard, Yale, or Stanford, the so-called T14 schools, you need to be in the 170s. We're talking about the 98th, 99th percentile. Every single point matters. The difference between a 169 and a 170 can be the difference between a rejection letter and a life-changing scholarship offer. So how do you prepare for a test like this? You don't cram for it. You train for it. This is not a final exam. It's the Olympics of standardized testing. Most successful applicants dedicate 3 to 6 months of their lives to this test. They treat it like a full-time job. Your journey begins with a single humbling step: the cold diagnostic. You need to find a quiet room, download an official practice test, set a timer, and take it. No prior studying. The goal is to get a baseline. And I'm going to warn you, your score will probably be terrible. It might be in the 130s or 140s. You will feel defeated. You will question everything. This is normal. This is the starting line. That score is not a measure of your intelligence. It's a measure of your unfamiliarity with the test. From there, your preparation is a 3-pronged attack. First is learning. You need a system. You can't just wing it. This means investing in a high-quality prep course or a set of dedicated books. You need to learn the methodology. You need to learn the 15 different types of flaws in logical reasoning. You need to learn the specific diagramming techniques for the 5 major types of logic games. You need to learn the strategies for tackling a reading comprehension passage about structuralist literary theory. This is your foundation. You're building your toolkit. Second is drilling. Once you learn a concept, you have to hammer it into your brain until it's second nature. You learn about causation fallacies. You then go and do 50 causation fallacy questions in a row. You learn how to diagram a sequencing game. You drill every sequencing game ever released. This is the grunt work. It's repetitive, it's tedious, but it's how you build speed and accuracy. It's the mental equivalent of a basketball player shooting 1,000 free throws a day. Third, and most importantly, is taking full-length timed practice tests and reviewing them. The review is everything. I mean everything. You should spend 2 to 3 times as long reviewing a test as you did taking it. For every single question, not just the ones you got wrong, but the ones you got right too, you need to ask yourself, why is the right answer right? And just as critically, why are the 4 wrong answers wrong? What trap did the test makers set? Why did I fall for it? Or if I got it right, was I certain, or was it a lucky guess? This process of meticulous review is where the real learning happens. It's where you go from a 155 to a 165. And through all of this, you have to manage your own psychology. You will hit plateaus. Your score will get stuck at a certain number for weeks, and you'll feel like you're running in place. This is the LSAT's way of testing your resolve. Burnout is real. The mental fatigue is immense. This test will challenge you in ways you've never been challenged before. But here's the reframe that will save you. The LSAT is not some arbitrary hurdle you have to jump over to get to the real stuff. The LSAT is the real stuff. It is your very first taste of legal training. Learning to spot an assumption in a logical reasoning question is the exact same skill you'll use to find the weakness in an opposing lawyer's argument. Learning to map out a logic game is the same skill you'll use to manage the complex facts and rules of a multi-million-dollar corporate merger. Learning to dissect a dense reading comprehension passage is the same skill you'll use to interpret a judge's ruling that will decide your client's fate. The LSAT isn't just a barrier to entry. It's a forge. It's designed to break you down and rebuild you with a new way of thinking. A more precise, more analytical, more skeptical way of seeing the world. When you conquer this test, you haven't just earned a score. You've earned a new set of cognitive tools. And once you have that score, that 3-digit number you fought tooth and nail for, it becomes half of the golden key. It pairs with your GPA to become the foundation of your entire law school application. With that score in hand, you are no longer just dreaming. You are a candidate. You are in the game. And now it's time to build the rest of your case. It's time to take that number and wrap it in a story that no admissions committee can ignore. That number, your LSAT score, combined with your GPA, creates your academic index. It's the first filter, the thing that gets your foot in the door. But it doesn't get you a seat. To do that, you have to transform from a number on a spreadsheet into a person they can't imagine their incoming class without. The application file is your opportunity to do just that. It's where you build your argument, present your evidence, and make your case for admission. Think of the admissions committee as your jury. Your LSAT and GPA are the hard evidence, the DNA at the crime scene. They're powerful, but they don't tell the whole story. The rest of your application, that's your opening statement, your key witnesses, and your closing argument all rolled into one. And the single most important part of that story, the absolute heart of your entire case, is the personal statement. This 2-page, double-spaced document is where more law school dreams live or die than any other place in this process. It is your one chance to speak directly to the admissions committee in your own voice. And so many people get it wrong. They make one of 3 critical mistakes. Mistake number 1. They just regurgitate their resume in paragraph form. In my sophomore year, I was treasurer of the Pre-Law Society. Then in my junior year, I interned for a local congressman, where I learned a lot about the legislative process. The committee has your resume. They can read. Telling them what you did isn't the point. The point is to tell them why it mattered. Mistake number 2. The cliché origin story. I've always been good at arguing, so my parents said I should be a lawyer. Or the classic, I want to go to law school to help people. Now, there is nothing wrong with wanting to help people. It's a noble goal. But it's not a story. It's a conclusion without any supporting premises. It's generic. The person reading your file has seen that exact sentence 5,000 times. It tells them nothing unique about you, your motivations, or your potential. And mistake number 3, trying to write what you think they want to hear. Using big $50 words to sound intelligent, or crafting a dramatic but inauthentic story about a single moment of injustice that changed your life forever. They can spot this a mile away. Authenticity is everything. So, what does a great personal statement actually do? It answers two fundamental questions. Why law? And why you? It connects your past experiences to your future ambitions in a way that is both logical and compelling. The best personal statements are built on a simple three-part structure: the narrative, the pivot, and the vision. The narrative is a story, a specific, concrete story from your life. It doesn't have to be a massive, life-altering trauma. In fact, it's often more effective if it isn't. It could be about a time you had to navigate a complex bureaucracy to help a family member. It could be about a project at work where you had to analyze a dense set of regulations to find a path forward. It could be about mediating a dispute in a student organization. It needs to be a real story with a beginning, a middle, and an end that shows you demonstrating a skill or a quality essential for a good lawyer. Analytical rigor, empathy, advocacy, problem solving. Let's say you worked as a junior project manager for a software company. Your narrative could be about a time your team was developing a new feature that collected user data. You noticed the privacy policy was vague and potentially misleading. You spent a week researching data privacy laws not because you had to, but because you felt a sense of responsibility. You then drafted a memo to your boss outlining the legal risks and proposing clearer language. That's a story. It shows initiative, analytical skill, and ethical awareness. Next comes the pivot. This is the crucial paragraph where you connect your story to your desire to go to law school. You explicitly draw the line from that experience to your future goals. So, for our project manager, the pivot would sound something like this. Wrestling with those data privacy regulations, I realized I was more fascinated by the structure of the rules than the code we were writing. I saw how the language of a contract or a policy could have a more profound impact on people's lives than any software feature. It was in that moment I understood that I didn't just want to build products within the existing rules. I wanted to understand and help shape the rules themselves. I want to move from executing the plan to architecting the framework. And to do that, I need the rigorous training and intellectual foundation that only a legal education can provide. See what happened? You connected a specific personal experience to a broader intellectual motivation for law school. Finally, the vision. This is where you look forward. You don't need to have your entire career mapped out, but you should show that you've thought about what you want to do with this very expensive, very difficult degree. You tie it back to the specific school you're applying to. At Georgetown Law, I hope to dive into the Center on Privacy and Technology and learn from leaders in the field. I want to explore how our legal frameworks can adapt to the pace of innovation, ensuring that individual rights are protected in the digital age. You're showing them you're not just applying to a law school. You're applying to their law school for a specific reason. Narrative, pivot, vision. A story from your past, a bridge to the present, and a goal for the future. That's the formula. Spend months on this. Write a dozen drafts. Give it to people you trust to read. This is your closing argument to the jury. Make it count. But even the best closing argument needs supporting evidence. That's where your letters of recommendation come in. These are your expert witnesses, testifying on your behalf. And just like in a real trial, the credibility and relevance of your witnesses are paramount. Who you ask is critically important. Do not ask the famous judge your father knows, or the state senator you shook hands with once at a fundraiser. A generic letter from a famous person is worthless. It often reads, "I've known Johnny for a short time, but he seems like a bright young man with a promising future." That's the kiss of death. You need letters from people who know you well, preferably in an academic or professional capacity. The best source is a professor who taught you in a small, upper-level seminar class, who graded your papers and saw you participate in discussions. They can speak with specific detail about your intellectual curiosity, your writing skills, and your ability to formulate a coherent argument. The second best source is a direct supervisor from a job or internship who can attest to your work ethic, maturity, and professionalism. But here's the pro tip. Don't just ask them for a letter. You have to empower them to write a great letter. When you make the request, and you should do it in person or over a video call at least 4 to 6 weeks before the deadline, you need to come prepared. Give them a packet. This brag packet should include your resume, your polished personal statement, a list of the schools you're applying to, and their deadlines. But most importantly, include a one-page summary of your work with them. Remind them of the specific class you took, the major papers you wrote, and maybe even attach a copy of your best work. Gently guide them. You can say something like, "I was particularly proud of the research I did for my paper on constitutional interpretation, and if you feel comfortable, I would be so grateful if you could speak to my research and analytical skills in your letter." You're not writing the letter for them. but you're making it incredibly easy for them to write a detailed, specific, and glowing recommendation. Finally, we have the rest of the file: your resume and any necessary addenda. Your resume should be a clean, professional, one-page summary of your experience. Use action verbs. Quantify your accomplishments whenever possible. Managed a team of 5 is better than was a team manager. Increase social media engagement by 30% is better than responsible for social media. The addendum is your chance to address any potential red flags in your application. Do you have a semester where your GPA plummeted? Did you withdraw from a bunch of classes? Do you have a minor disciplinary issue on your record? Don't hide it. Address it head-on in a short, non-emotional, one-paragraph addendum. State the facts of what happened, take responsibility, and briefly explain what you learned from the experience and how you've grown since. For example, during the spring semester of 2023, my GPA was a 2.5 due to a serious illness in my immediate family that required me to take on significant caretaking responsibilities. While my academic performance suffered temporarily, I learned to manage my time under extreme pressure, and my grades in all subsequent semesters returned to a 3.8 average. That's it. No excuses, just context. It shows maturity and honesty. Your LSAT score got you in the door. But this collection of documents, your powerful personal statement, your glowing letters of recommendation, your professional resume, and your honest addenda, this is what gets you the offer. Each piece is a brushstroke, and together they create a portrait. Your job is to make that portrait so compelling, so authentic, and so full of promise that the admissions committee can't just see you as a law student. They can see you as a future colleague. Once that file is complete, once every document is polished to perfection, you're ready for the final strategic step before you hit submit. You're ready to build your school list. This isn't just about making a list of your dream schools. This is about architecting your future. Building your school list is one of the most strategic, high-stakes decisions you will make in this entire process. It's the difference between a handful of rejections and a flood of acceptances. It's the difference between graduating with a mountain of debt and a full-ride scholarship. It's the difference between ending up in a city you love, with a job you're passionate about, and feeling like you took a wrong turn 3 years ago. So let's get this right. The foundation of a brilliant school list is the 3-tiered strategy: safety, target, and reach. Think of it like a military campaign. Your safety schools are your secure home base. Your target schools are the primary objectives you are well-equipped to capture. And your reach schools? Those are the audacious, high-reward long shots that could change the entire game. You need all 3. Applying only to reach schools is a recipe for disaster. Applying only to safety schools is selling yourself short. The magic is in the balance. Let's define these terms with cold, hard data. Your primary weapons in this analysis are your LSAT score and your undergraduate GPA. Every law school publishes the median LSAT and GPA for their incoming class. The median is the middle number. Half the students are above it, half are below it. This is your benchmark. A target school is one where your stats fall squarely within the school's median range. If a school's median LSAT is a 168 and their median GPA is a 3.8, and you have a 168 and a 3.8, that's a perfect target school. You are the exact profile they are looking for. You are competitive. An acceptance is a very reasonable expectation, but not a guarantee. You should build the core of your list, maybe 4 to 6 schools right in this target zone. Next, safety schools. A safety school is one where your LSAT and GPA are both significantly above the school's medians. If their median LSAT is a 162 and you're walking in with a 170, you are a very, very strong candidate. The purpose of safety schools is twofold. First, they give you peace of mind. You are almost certain to get into these schools, ensuring you will be going to law school next year. Second, and this is a crucial insider tip, this is where the money comes from. Schools want to attract students with high stats to boost their own rankings. If you are well above their medians, they will often try to lure you in with substantial scholarship offers. A full ride to a solid regional school can be a much smarter financial decision than paying full price at a higher-ranked one. Don't underestimate the power of graduating with zero debt. You should identify 2 or 3 solid safety schools. Finally, we have the reach schools. These are the dream schools, the T14s, the ones where your stats are at or more likely below the school's medians. If a school's median LSAT is a 173 and you have a 169, it's a reach. This doesn't mean it's impossible. Not at all. This is where the rest of your application, your personal statement, your letters of recommendation, your work experience, has to do the heavy lifting. It has to convince the admissions committee that you are more than just your numbers. You are what's known as a splitter. If one of your numbers is above the median and one is below, or a reverse splitter. For these schools, you're betting on the holistic review. You should absolutely apply to 2 or 3 reach schools. You never know whose desk your application will land on, or which part of your story will resonate. Every single year, people with below median stats get into Harvard, Yale, and Stanford. Why not you? So you have the 3 tiers. But how do you find the actual schools to put in those tiers? This is where we move beyond the numbers and into the art of building a list that's right for you. First, geography. This is the single most overlooked factor by applicants. Do not just apply to the highest ranked schools you think you can get into. Ask yourself a serious question. Where do I want to live and practice law for the first 5 to 10 years after I graduate? The vast majority of law schools are regional. Their alumni networks, their career services connections, and their on-campus interview programs are all strongest in their immediate geographic area. If you go to the University of Texas, you will have a massive advantage finding a job in Texas. If you go to Fordham, you'll have a huge leg up in New York City. The only exceptions are the top 14 or T14 schools, which are considered national schools. A degree from Harvard or the University of Chicago will open doors anywhere in the country. But for most schools, your degree is a regional passport. So if you can't stand the cold, don't build your list around schools in Boston and Chicago. If you want to be a tech lawyer in Silicon Valley, your list should be heavily weighted towards California schools. Second, specialized programs. Not all law schools are created equal. Some have the best international law programs in the world. Others are powerhouses in intellectual property, environmental law, or tax law. If you have a specific passion, you need to research which schools excel in that area. Look at their course catalogs. See how many upper-level classes they offer in that subject. Look for clinics, journals, and student organizations dedicated to that field. A school that's ranked 30th overall might have the #1 ranked intellectual property program in the country. If that's your dream, that school should be at the top of your list regardless of its overall U.S. News and World Report ranking. Third, and this is the big one, cost and financial aid. Law school is obscenely expensive. We're talking $250,000 at many private schools. You must treat this as a financial decision, not just an academic one. Every school's website has a sticker price, but you also need to look at what kind of grants and scholarships they offer. Use the LSAC fee waiver if you qualify, as it will save you thousands in application fees. When acceptances roll in, don't just look at the offer. Look at the debt you'd be taking on. A $200,000 loan is a heavy burden that will dictate your career choices for a decade or more. It might force you into a high-paying corporate job you hate just to make the monthly payments. Again, never underestimate the power of a scholarship. Graduating with freedom is a value that's hard to quantify. Fourth, consider the culture. This is harder to gauge, but it's incredibly important for your mental health and happiness over the next 3 years. Is the school known for a cutthroat, competitive environment, or is it more collaborative? The best way to find out is to talk to people. Reach out to current students or recent alumni on LinkedIn. Most will be happy to give you their honest opinion. If you can, visit the campus, sit in on a class, walk the halls. Can you see yourself here? Do you feel a sense of belonging? Don't ignore your gut feeling. So, how many schools should you apply to in total? The sweet spot for most applicants is between 8 and 12. This gives you enough room for a balanced list, say 3 safeties, 5 targets, and 3 reaches without spreading yourself too thin. Remember, each application takes time and money. You want to be able to tailor your application materials for each school, not just send out a generic blast. Your final step in this stage is to create a master spreadsheet. Column A, school name. Column B, tier, safety, target, reach. Column C, median LSAT/GPA. Column D, your LSAT/GPA. Column E, application deadline. Column F, required essays and their word counts. Column G, notes on why you want to go there, specific professors, clinics, location. This document will become your command center. It will keep you organized, sane, and strategic. It transforms a chaotic mess of possibilities into a clear, actionable plan. Building this list is an act of deep self-reflection. It forces you to define your priorities, confront financial realities, and map out the first steps of your professional life. It's not just about getting in somewhere. It's about getting into the right somewhere for you. Once this battle plan is complete, once your spreadsheet is filled out and you know exactly which schools you're targeting and why, you are ready to face the final frontier of the application itself, tailoring your story for each specific school. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's where your numbers, your GPA and your LSAT score transform from cold hard data into the backdrop for a compelling human story. Your story. Because make no mistake, your law school application is not a form to be filled out. It is a meticulously crafted narrative, a persuasive argument for your own potential. Every single component, from the personal statement to the tiniest addendum, must work in concert to answer one fundamental question for the admissions committee. Why you? Let's start with the heart of it all, the personal statement. This 2-page document is the most misunderstood, and therefore most frequently butchered, part of the entire application. So let's clear the air. It is not a resume in paragraph form. It is not a list of your accomplishments. And for the love of all that is holy, it is not an audition for a tragedy of the week movie. Admissions officers read thousands of these. They have seen every hardship imaginable. Unless an experience fundamentally rewired your brain and set you on the path to law, a simple sob story, without profound reflection, will not move the needle. So what is it? It's your origin story. It's the moment you connect the dots between your past experiences and your future aspirations in the legal field. The golden rule, the one I want you to write on a sticky note and put on your monitor right now, is this: show, don't tell. Don't tell the admissions committee you're resilient. Tell them a story about the time you worked 2 jobs to support your family while taking a full course load, and how managing that taught you a level of time management and grit that can't be learned from a textbook. Don't tell them you're passionate about justice. Show them. Talk about the specific instance you witnessed an injustice in your community, the research you did to understand it, and the small concrete steps you took to address it, even if it was just organizing a local meeting or writing a letter to the editor. That small action speaks infinitely louder than a grand, empty declaration. A winning personal statement has a clear structure. First, the hook. The opening sentence must grab them by the collar. It should be a moment in time, a powerful image, a question that demands an answer. Start in the middle of the action. Not, I decided to volunteer at the legal aid clinic in the summer of 2024. But, the eviction notice was taped to the door with 3 strips of peeling masking tape. And in that moment, I understood the difference between a house and a home. See the difference? One is a report, the other is a story. Next, you must answer the so what question. You've told a great story, but so what? How did that experience, seeing the eviction notice, working at that clinic, leading that debate team, plant the seed for a legal career? This is your analysis. It's where you demonstrate self-awareness and intellectual curiosity. It's the bridge from your past to your future. And here is the most critical part, the part that separates the acceptances from the waitlists. You must connect your story to their law school. This is the tailoring we just talked about. This is where your meticulous research from that spreadsheet pays off. You don't just say, I want to study environmental law. You say, my experience restoring wetlands in my hometown sparked a desire to understand the policy behind conservation. That's why I'm so drawn to Professor Thompson's work on water rights at your school, and the opportunity to participate in the environmental law clinic, which I know has a track record of successfully litigating cases just like the ones I hope to build my career on. That single sentence shows you've done your homework. It shows you aren't just applying to any law school. You are applying to their law school for specific, well-thought-out reasons. You're not just a number. You're a potential colleague, a future contributor to their community. Finally, the conclusion. It should be forward-looking, confident, and concise. It ties your past experience and your future goals at their school into one neat, powerful package, leaving the reader with a clear picture of the unique, driven, and thoughtful student you will be. Now, what about the other essays? The optional ones? Let's be clear. In the world of T14 law school admissions, optional is not optional. It's an opportunity. The YX School essay is your chance to double down on your tailoring. Go deep. Mention specific courses, journals, and student organizations. Show them you've imagined yourself walking their halls. The diversity statement is another golden opportunity. And please understand that diversity is a broad and beautiful term. It is not just about race or ethnicity. It is about the unique perspective you bring. Are you the first in your family to go to college? Did you grow up in a rural, underserved community? Do you come from a background in science or music or the military? Did you overcome a learning disability? Did you live abroad? All of this is diversity. It's a diversity of experience and thought that will enrich the classroom for everyone. If you have a story that adds a unique color to the incoming class photo, tell it here. Then there are the addenda. These are not essays. They are brief, factual, and to-the-point explanations. If you have a character and fitness issue, an arrest, and academic disciplinary action, you must disclose it. Address it head-on. State the facts, take responsibility, explain what you learned, and confirm it won't happen again. No excuses, no drama. Same for a GPA or LSAT addendum. Did your grades tank one semester because of a serious medical issue or a family tragedy? You can write a short, one-paragraph explanation. Again, state the facts, don't make excuses. During the spring semester of my sophomore year, a serious family illness required me to travel home frequently, which impacted my academic performance. As you can see from my transcript, my grades in all subsequent semesters returned to their previous level. Boom. Done. You've explained the anomaly without whining. Next, your advocates, your recommenders. The letters of recommendation are your third-party validation. They prove you are who you say you are. Choose wisely. The dean of the school who you met once for 5 minutes is a terrible choice. Your professor from a small seminar class who saw you lead discussions, challenge ideas, and rewrite a paper 3 times to get it right is a phenomenal choice. You want people who can speak with specific detail about your intellectual horsepower, your writing ability, your work ethic, and your character. 2 academic recommenders are standard. A third from an employer is fine, especially if you've been out of school for a while. But don't just ask them. Equip them. This is a pro move that will make all the difference. When you ask them to write a letter, at least a month in advance, by the way, you're going to give them a folder. In that folder will be your resume, your final personal statement, a list of the schools you're applying to, and the secret weapon, a brag sheet. This is a 1-page document that gently reminds them of your accomplishments in their class. The A+ you got on the final paper with a 1-sentence summary of your thesis. A specific, insightful comment you made during a class discussion. Any awards or recognitions you received. You are making their job easy. You are giving them the specific anecdotes they need to write a powerful, detailed letter that stands out. And always, always waive your right to see the letter. It signals confidence, and admissions committees trust confidential letters far more. Finally, the resume. Keep it to 1 page. No exceptions. Use action verbs. Quantify your achievements. Instead of responsible for social media, write grew social media engagement by 300% over 6 months by implementing a new content strategy. Every bullet point should scream competence and results. Your application is a mosaic. The personal statement is the centerpiece, the addenda clarify the details, the letters of rec provide the frame, and the resume is the solid foundation. Every piece must fit together perfectly to create a single, compelling picture of a person who is not just ready for law school, but destined for it. And then one day it happens. The thick envelope arrives. Not a thin one, a thick one. You've done it. You've been accepted into law school. The dream you've been chasing, the one that powered you through all those late nights and practice tests, is finally real. You feel a surge of validation, of pure, unadulterated triumph. You celebrate. You tell your family, your friends. You buy a sweatshirt with the law school's crest on it. And for a few glorious weeks, you are on top of the world. Then the summer reading list arrives. And the reality begins to set in. That feeling of being the smartest person in the room? It vanishes the moment you step onto campus for orientation. Because now, you are in a room filled with people who are also the smartest person in their room. The valedictorians, the debate champions, the ones who always had the right answer. The air is thick with a mixture of nervous excitement and sheer, uncut intelligence. And this is your world for the next 3 years. Welcome to the crucible. Welcome to your first year, your 1L. Forget everything you think you know about school. Undergrad was a warm-up. This is the main event. Your life will be dictated by 5 foundational subjects: contracts, torts, civil procedure, criminal law, and property. You won't just learn them. You will eat, sleep, and breathe them. The reading isn't just heavy. It's biblical in scope. We're talking 50, 60, sometimes 100 pages a night per class. And it's not reading a novel. It's dense, archaic language from 18th century British court cases, filled with legal jargon you've never heard before. Residential ipsa loquitur, promissory estoppel, the rule against perpetuities. It's a new language, and you are expected to be fluent by yesterday. To survive, you learn to briefcases. This is your first, most critical skill. You learn to dissect a judicial opinion, to strip it down to its essential parts: the facts, the issue, the rule, the analysis, and the conclusion. It's like performing an autopsy on an argument. It's tedious, it's time-consuming, and it is the only thing that will save you when the professor's gaze sweeps across the lecture hall, 150 students holding their breath, and their eyes land on you. This is the Socratic method. It's not a lecture. It's an interrogation. The professor won't just ask you what the court decided. They will ask you why. They will change the facts and ask if the outcome should be different. They will propose a ridiculous hypothetical and force you to defend your position using only the legal principles from the case. They will push you and probe you and peel back the layers of your argument until you either find the solid core of legal reasoning or you crumble. It is terrifying. It is exhilarating. And it is designed to do one thing: to rewire your brain. To stop you from thinking like a layperson and start thinking like a lawyer, analytically, critically, and always prepared for the counterargument. And after months of this intellectual boot camp, it all comes down to one thing: the final exam. For most 1L classes, your entire grade hangs on a single 3-hour test. There are no midterms, no quizzes, no extra credit. It's one shot. And here's the most brutal part. You are not graded on what you know. You are graded on the curve. You are ranked against your classmates. This means that you could write a brilliant, flawless exam demonstrating a perfect understanding of the material. And if 99 other people in your class also write a brilliant, flawless exam, you could still get a C. It's a zero-sum game. It fosters a level of competition that most people have never experienced. It's why the law library is silent and full at 2 in the morning. It's why outlines, condensed summaries of the entire semester's material, are guarded like state secrets. Your 1L year is designed to break you down and rebuild you. Few survive it, and most do. You emerge different, sharper, more resilient. You've been through the fire. Then comes your second and third year. The pressure shifts. The foundational courses are done. Now you get to choose your own adventure. This is where you stop being just a law student and start becoming a specific type of lawyer. Are you fascinated by technology and innovation? You take classes in intellectual property and patent law. Do you want to stand in a courtroom and fight for justice? You dive into evidence, trial advocacy, and advanced criminal procedure. Do you see yourself negotiating multi-billion-dollar mergers in a high-rise office? You load up on corporations, securities regulation, and tax law. The curriculum opens up, allowing you to build a specialized toolkit for the career you want. But 2L and 3L year is about more than just classes. It's about doing. You move from the theoretical to the practical. You might join the school's law review, a prestigious student-run journal. This is a grueling commitment, spending hundreds of hours meticulously checking the citations in academic articles, ensuring every comma and period is perfect. It's not glamorous, but it's a gold star on your resume that signals to top-tier law firms and judges that you have an unmatched attention to detail. Or maybe you're drawn to the spotlight. You join moot court or mock trial. Here you're not just reading cases, you're arguing them. You're given a fictional case file, a complex appeal, or a criminal trial, and you prepare to argue it against your classmates in front of real judges and practicing attorneys. You learn to think on your feet, to craft a persuasive oral argument, to handle a blistering series of questions from the bench. This is where the law comes alive. It stops being words on a page and becomes a weapon, a shield, a tool for persuasion. And then there are the clinics. This, for many, is the most profound experience in all of law school. You stop pretending to be a lawyer and, under the supervision of a professor, you actually become one. You represent real clients. People from your community who can't afford legal help. You might be helping a family fight in a legal eviction, or assisting a refugee in navigating the labyrinthine asylum process, or representing a victim of domestic violence seeking a restraining order. Suddenly, the stakes are not a grade on a transcript. The stakes are a family's home, a person's safety, a chance at a new life. This is where you feel the true weight and the profound privilege of what it means to be an advocate. Through all of this, you're building your network, navigating on-campus interviews, and trying to secure that all-important summer job that will hopefully lead to a full-time offer after graduation. You learn that law school is as much a social and professional game as it is an academic one. You form study groups that become your lifeline. You realize the person sitting next to you isn't just your competition. They're your future colleague, your future opposing counsel, maybe even a future judge. The myth of the hyper-competitive student who rips pages out of library books is mostly just that, a myth. The reality is a community forged in shared struggle. 3 years. Feels like a lifetime and it goes by in a flash. You walk in as a student, armed with an acceptance letter and a healthy dose of imposter syndrome. You endure the Socratic gauntlet, you brief 1,000 cases, you write exams until your hand cramps, you learn to speak the language of the law. You find your passion, whether it's in a clinic, a mock trial courtroom, or the quiet stacks of the library. And then you walk across a stage. They hand you a diploma with your name on it, followed by 2 beautiful hard-earned words. Juris Doctor. You've done it. You've conquered law school. You have the knowledge, the skills, the degree. But the journey isn't over. There is one final gatekeeper. One last monumental test that stands between you and the right to actually call yourself a lawyer. It is the Mount Everest of legal exams, and it is waiting for you. It's called the bar exam. And for 2 solid days, it will be the single most important thing in your universe. It's not just a test. It's a rite of passage. A grueling intellectual marathon designed to push you to your absolute limit. It's the legal profession's way of asking one final brutal question. Do you really have what it takes? So what is this monster? At its core, the bar exam is a state-administered test that determines whether you are qualified to practice law in that specific jurisdiction. While each state has its own quirks, most have adopted a standardized format known as the Uniform Bar Exam, or UBE. Think of it as the final boss battle but with multiple stages. The first stage is the Multi-State Bar Examination, the MBE. This is a 6-hour, 200-question, multiple-choice gauntlet. It covers 7 of the most fundamental areas of law. Things like contracts, torts, which is the law of civil wrongs like personal injury, constitutional law, criminal law, and so on. Now, when I say multiple choice, I don't want you to think of your high school history quizzes. These questions are masterpieces of psychological torment. They are dense factual scenarios where every single word matters. Often, there will be 2 answers that seem perfectly correct. Your job isn't to find a right answer. It's to find the best answer among a sea of almosts. It's a test of knowledge, yes, but it's also a test of precision, endurance, and your ability to reason under immense pressure. Next up, you face the Multi-State Essay Examination, the ME. This is where you have to prove you can think and write like a lawyer. You'll be given 6 different hypothetical stories, each packed with legal issues, and you have 30 minutes per story to write a complete, coherent legal analysis. You have to spot the issues, state the relevant legal rules from memory, apply those rules to the specific facts of the story, and come to a logical conclusion. This section tests a much broader range of subjects than the multiple choice part, including things like family law, trusts and estates, and corporate law. It's a frantic race against the clock where you have to pull complex legal doctrines out of thin air and structure a perfect argument 6 times in a row. And finally, there's the Multi-State Performance Test, the MPT. For many, this is the most daunting part of the exam. Why? Because you can't study for it. Not in the traditional sense. The MPT doesn't test what you know. It tests what you can do. You're given a simulated case file, complete with client letters, interview transcripts, and police reports. You're also given a library of fictional laws, statutes, and court cases. Your task is to act as a lawyer. You might have to write a persuasive brief to a judge, an objective memo to a senior partner, or even a demand letter to an opposing attorney. You have 90 minutes to read, comprehend, analyze, and produce a professional quality legal document from scratch. It's the closest the exam gets to simulating the actual day-to-day work of a lawyer, and it is incredibly challenging. For 10 to 12 weeks after you graduate from law school, your life ceases to be your own. It belongs to bar prep. This is a period of study so intense it makes law school finals look like a casual review session. Your world shrinks to the size of your desk. You'll enroll in a commercial bar prep course like Barbary or Themis, which provides a rigid day-by-day study schedule. Your days become a monotonous cycle. Wake up, watch 4 hours of video lectures, complete 100 practice multiple-choice questions, write 2 practice essays, review your answers, see how much you got wrong, feel a wave of panic, eat, sleep, repeat. You will do this 6, sometimes 7 days a week. It is a full-time job for which you are paying thousands of dollars. While your friends are celebrating their graduation and enjoying their summer, you are in a self-imposed prison of flashcards and outlines. The sheer volume of material is staggering. You're not just relearning 3 years of law school. You're memorizing the minute details and state-specific distinctions of dozens of legal subjects. The pressure is immense. You are physically, mentally, and emotionally drained. The self-doubt is constant. Every practice question you get wrong feels like a personal failure, a sign that you're not going to make it. You are betting your entire career, all the time, all the money on how you perform over 2 days. But for those of you aiming for 2026, there is a massive change on the horizon. The entire structure of the bar exam is about to be revolutionized. Starting in July of 2026, a handful of states will begin administering the new next-generation bar exam, with more states expected to adopt it soon after. This isn't just a minor update. It's a fundamental reimagining of how we test new lawyers. The next-gen exam is designed to be less about brute memorization and more about practical skills. The number of subjects tested will be narrowed, focusing on the absolute essentials like civil procedure and contracts, while dropping others like family law and wills and trusts. But the biggest change is the format. Instead of siloed sections of multiple choice and essays, the new exam will use integrated question sets. You'll be given a common fact scenario, a single story, and then face a mix of multiple choice questions, short answer questions, and longer writing tasks, all related to that one scenario. This is meant to mirror how legal problems appear in the real world, messy, and touching on multiple areas of law at once. The goal is to test skills like legal research, client counseling, and factual investigation more directly. It's a shift from what do you know to what can you do with what you know. It's a change that acknowledges that being a lawyer is about more than just reciting rules. It's about solving problems. But the bar exam isn't the only test. Before you can even sit for it, you must pass another sneakily difficult exam, the MPRE, or the Multi-State Professional Responsibility Examination. This is the ethics exam. It's a 2-hour 60-question multiple-choice test on the rules of professional conduct. It covers everything from attorney advertising and client confidentiality to conflicts of interest and a lawyer's duty to the court. Most students take it during their second or third year of law school. And while it might sound simple, just be a good person, right? It's notoriously tricky. The questions are situational and nuanced, often presenting you with a scenario where your moral compass points one way, but the specific technical rule points another. Passing the MPRE is a non-negotiable prerequisite to becoming a licensed attorney. And even after you've conquered both exams, there's one final intensely personal hurdle: the character and fitness evaluation. This is where the State Bar Association essentially conducts a deep background check on your entire life. You will fill out an application that is hundreds of questions long, detailing every place you've ever lived, every job you've ever had, and every school you've ever attended. You must disclose any and all criminal history, even if the charges were dropped or the records were sealed. You have to explain any academic discipline you've ever faced from high school onward. You have to lay out your financial history, including any significant debt, bankruptcies, or failures to pay child support. The purpose is to ensure that you have the honesty, integrity, and trustworthiness to be an officer of the court, to hold a client's life and liberty in your hands. The investigators can and will contact your former employers, your law school, and your personal references. And the single most important rule of the character and fitness process is this: tell the truth. The bar committee is far more forgiving of a mistake you made in your past than they are of you lying about it in the present. An omission or a lie on that application is often seen as definitive proof of a lack of character, and it is one of the fastest ways to have your dream of becoming a lawyer denied at the very last step. So you've done it. You've survived the LSAT, endured law school, passed the ethics exam, and cleared the character evaluation. You've spent the summer in hell, preparing for the most difficult test of your life. You walk out of the testing center after that second day, a hollowed-out shell of a human being. And then you wait. For months, you exist in a state of suspended animation, waiting for the results. Then one day the email arrives. Your heart pounds in your chest. You take a deep breath, click it open, and scan the screen for one single word. And there it is. 4 letters that change your life forever. PSS. A wave of relief so powerful it could bring you to your knees. You've done it. You've conquered the mountain. You've earned the right to be called a lawyer. But what does it actually mean to stand on that summit? What happens the day after you get that passing score? The tests are over. The gates have been opened. The real journey is just beginning. That beginning is a strange mix of euphoria and anticlimax. For years, every ounce of your being has been focused on a single goal: passing the bar. And now you have. The mountain has been climbed. The dragon has been slain. You'll get an email or check a website and see your name on a list. And in that moment, the world shifts. But the very next day, the sun rises again. The world keeps spinning. and you have to figure out what to do with this new identity, this new power you've earned. The first official step is the swearing-in ceremony. This is the moment it becomes real. Standing in a courtroom surrounded by your family and fellow new attorneys, you'll raise your right hand. You'll take an oath to support the Constitution of the United States and of your state, an oath to conduct yourself with integrity, to be a zealous advocate for your clients, to uphold the honor of the profession. This isn't just a formality, it's a rite of passage. It's the moment you formally transition from a student of the law to an officer of the court. You'll get your bar number, a unique identifier that will follow you for the rest of your career. And then you can finally legally call yourself a lawyer, a squire, attorney at law. But that title doesn't come with a job offer attached. For many, the next mountain to climb is the job hunt. If you didn't secure a post-graduation job during your 2L or 3L year, this period can be more stressful than the bar exam itself. The legal market is a vast, complex ecosystem. On one end, you have big law, the massive international firms with hundreds, sometimes thousands of attorneys. The pay is astronomical, often starting close to $250,000 a year. The work is demanding, the hours are brutal, and the pressure is immense. You'll be working on billion-dollar mergers, high-stakes litigation for Fortune 500 companies. It's a world of prestige, power, and often burnout. Then there are mid-size and small firms, the backbone of the legal profession. Here you might get more hands-on experience earlier in your career. The work is more varied, the culture can be more relaxed, and you'll likely have more direct client contact. The pay is less than big law, but still very respectable. This is where you might handle a local business's contracts, represent a family in a personal injury case, or draft a will for your neighbor. Or maybe your heart lies in public service. You could become a prosecutor, representing the state and seeking justice for victims of crime. Or you could be a public defender, upholding the constitutional right to counsel for those who can't afford it, fighting for the underdog. The pay is significantly lower, but the sense of mission can be profound. There are also government jobs working for the EPA, the SEC, the Department of Justice, and a universe of nonprofit and public interest organizations fighting for civil rights, environmental protection, or immigration reform. And of course, there's the path of the solo practitioner, hanging your own shingle, being your own boss, and building a practice from the ground up. It's the riskiest path, but for the entrepreneurial spirit, it offers the ultimate freedom. Whichever path you choose, your first year as a lawyer will feel like drinking from a fire hose. Law school taught you how to issue spot, how to analyze cases, how to think. It did not teach you how to draft a motion to compel, how to take a deposition, how to talk to a terrified client, or how to bill in 6-minute increments. This is where the real learning begins. You will be incompetent. Let me say that again, you will feel, and in many ways will be, completely and utterly incompetent. This is normal. It's called imposter syndrome, and it is rampant in the legal profession. The key to surviving your first year is to embrace being a rookie. Find a mentor. Find that senior partner or mid-level associate who is willing to answer your stupid questions. Because the only truly stupid question is the one you don't ask, which then leads to a critical mistake in a client's case. Learn to be meticulous. Double-check your work. Triple-check your citations. The law is a profession of details, and one misplaced comma in a contract can cost a client millions. You'll work long hours. You'll make mistakes. You'll get feedback that stings. But you will also learn more in that first year than you did in all 3 years of law school combined. You'll have your first client meeting, your first court appearance, your first victory. And with each small win, your confidence will grow. You'll go from feeling like an imposter to realizing you actually are a lawyer. As you navigate these early years, you'll also start to find your niche. Very few lawyers end their careers in the same practice area where they started. You might begin in general commercial litigation and discover you have a knack for intellectual property law, spending your days protecting trademarks and patents. You might start in a corporate transactional group and realize your true passion is for family law, helping people navigate the most difficult times in their lives. Your career is not a straight line. It's a long and winding road. Be open to new opportunities. Attend legal education seminars in different fields. Talk to lawyers in other practice areas. The first few years are about building a foundation of skills, legal research, writing, analysis, advocacy, that are transferable across the entire profession. Once you have that foundation, you can build any kind of house you want. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the money. The financial reality of being a new lawyer is a story of extremes. If you land a big law job, you'll be making more money than you know what to do with. But you'll also be carrying on average over $170,000 in student loan debt. That debt is a golden handcuff. It can dictate your career choices, trapping you in a high-paying job you hate because you can't afford to leave. On the other end, if you choose a public interest path, you might be eligible for programs like Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF, which can forgive your federal student loans after 10 years of service. But in those 10 years, you'll be living on a modest salary, making careful financial choices while your peers in the private sector buy houses and take lavish vacations. No matter your path, financial literacy is non-negotiable. You must have a plan for your debt. You must have a budget. The financial pressures on young lawyers are a primary driver of the stress and burnout that plagues our profession. And that brings us to the most important part of this entire roadmap, the human part. Being a lawyer is not a job. It is an identity. It will consume you if you let it. The profession has alarmingly high rates of depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. The adversarial nature of the work, the immense pressure, the long hours, the weight of your client's problems, it all takes a toll. You must, from day one, build a sustainable life. You are not a machine. You need sleep. You need exercise. You need hobbies and friends outside of the law. You need to set boundaries. Learn to say no. Learn to disconnect. Your mental and physical health are not luxuries. They are prerequisites for a long and successful career. But for all its challenges, for all its pressures, the law is a profoundly noble and rewarding calling. You will be a problem solver, a counselor, a protector, an advocate. You will stand with people on the best and worst days of their lives. You might help a startup launch a world-changing technology. You might secure asylum for a family fleeing persecution. You might help an elderly couple plan their estate, ensuring their life's work is passed on to the next generation. You might stand up in a courtroom and give a voice to someone who has been silenced. This is the work. It is more than just a career. You are stepping into a lineage that stretches back centuries, becoming a steward of the principles of justice, fairness, and the rule of law. The roadmap we've laid out is a guide, but your journey will be your own. The path is long, it is arduous, and it will demand more of you than you can possibly imagine. But at the end of it lies a chance to make a difference. A chance to shape your community. A chance to leave the world a little more just than you found it. Welcome to the profession. Now go do some good.